My name is David Jordan Jr. I'm the editor-in-chief of eShay magazine, and today I have an exclusive interview with Jason Pruitt, the associate women's head basketball coach at Indiana State University. There's recently been a lot of talk about Bethesda University in women's college basketball, but we circle back to Coach Pruitt. Coach Pruitt has been coaching women's college basketball for over 13 years, and he began his career coaching at Bethesda University. And from day one, the start of the women's program, and turned the program into a national contender. Just to give you a brief background on Coach Pruitt's many accomplishments, he played Division I basketball at Mississippi Valley State and finished his collegiate career at Kentucky State, holds a BA in communications, holds a master's in business. And in addition to that, on the coaching side, he's had ultimate success. 5 times coach of the year, 4-time conference champion, 2-time regional champion, has had 12 players that have played professionally. His coaching, as I stated, began at Bethesda University. And with that program, starting the women's basketball program from scratch, he took them to the national championship game where they were national runner-up. And then the second year, they entered the national tournament. He turned that program into a top 10 team. He went from there to NAIA with the University of Antelope Valley, won a conference championship there, had a top 25 ranked team, went to NCAA Division III at the University of Laverne, same thing. NCAA Division III West Region Coach of the Year, Coach of the Year in the conference, had a top 25 team there, and has elevated to the Division I level. Did I forget anything, Coach Pruitt?
No, you pretty much covered it all. I'm about to send you my check in the mail.
Okay. All right. So, as we talk about your start, you started at Bethesda University. You started the program with nothing and turned it into a contender on the national level. When you took that job, what was the mindset that helped you shape and formulate that program?
First of all, I was very fortunate to be offered that job because at that time I was on the men's side and had only been a men's college assistant for 1 year before taking that head coaching job. Back then, I was blessed with that opportunity. And, I was coaching women's basketball when it wasn't cool or popular to coach women's basketball. I saw an opportunity. I jumped in and took it, and the mindset was like, I didn't know anything else then. So, I just knew that I wanted to build a program and I wanted to build a contender and I wanted to compete for a championship. And that was the mindset from day one.
And with that mindset, we know that it stems from your background as number one, being an athlete, and then also working, because you've also worked in television and just having that mindset of making something happen. No excuses. And if it's to be, you're going to make it happen. And in today's landscape, a lot of people, a lot of coaches tend to think about the factors that may not allow them to have success. When you have the NIL, you have people transferring, a lack of facilities. When you were coaching at Bethesda, you were driving the bus, literally. You was driving the bus to games. You was doing the laundry, yet you made sure to instill the things and the principles into your players so that they could have success and achieve at a high level.
I always preach it. I think Bethesda was probably one of the best things happened to me as a young coach. I got to learn how to do every job inside the athletic department, from doing the laundry to driving the bus to driving the vans to ordering uniforms to scheduling. We were independent, so I had to schedule 30 plus games a year. That helped me build meaningful relationships with coaches across the country that paid off in the future jobs that I got. And I just, from budgeting to scholarship to compliance, you literally, when you start at a private NAIA, NCCAA, JUCO job, when you have to do everything with no full-time assistance, it's sink or swim. And you learn how to swim real fast.
No, most definitely. And one of the things that you did that has become commonplace now, some schools did it, but not at the extreme level that you did, is you recruited internationally. Like you had a lot of players that were from the States, but you didn't limit yourself because you know that talent is talent. And you created a pipeline that you had almost like the United Nations on your team with players from different countries around the world. Could you speak about
I
that?
did. So that first year when I took over Bethesda, I think the year before I got there, they was like 1-24, 2-23, and I knew that, but it didn't hit me until I actually was putting a schedule together. And I was calling some of these local schools in the Los Angeles area, and they was like, "Well, are you gonna have a team?" They said they was gonna show up last year and didn't show up. And I was like, "Yeah, we gonna have a team." But when you have NAIA power conferences that was in Southern California at the time, like most of those schools that were NAIA back then are now Division two. You had to find a different way to recruit kids. So, I hit the international market. I had two young ladies from Latvia. I had two young ladies from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I had young lady from Brazil. I had a couple young ladies from Mexico. Then I went in and got a bunch of local kids, local Los Angeles kids that people had overlooked that were really good players, and we were able to put together a competitive team that you know we we made unbelievable runs while we were there.
And speaking of those runs, the national championship run, when you started that season, was that something that you foresaw at the beginning with the potential, or was it a certain point from preseason workouts to early season where something clicked and you like, hey, we have an opportunity? What take us back to that year of that run?
I mean, it's just like catching fire in a bottle. Up that year had been up and down, up and down, up and down. It was, we could never just catch our footing, and coming down the home stretch, everything just clicked. You got, to win it, to having played for a national championship when I was in junior college, to actually going and being able to coach in a national championship game as a second year head coach, it takes luck. It takes luck and it takes everything lining up. And we just had that perfect storm where everything clicked at the right time and we were able to make a run. We were able to make a run that year. So we never thought about it until we was there. We were just trying to get better every game. One better every game. We were trying to build for the next year, but we caught fire and got hot. And that's all it takes.
Most definitely. And then with that success, the next opportunity came for you again to start a program from scratch, which you did at the University of Antelope Valley, NAIA University. And again, you recruited, you had your players, and your very first game, you played against Pepperdine, Division One institution, and you beat them.
Yeah.
Same formula. Like, what is it that you instill in your players that enables them to understand that, hey, we're going out to hoop, we're going to compete, we're going to play, and it don't matter who's on the other side. It's about us.
I mean, I don't know anything other than winning championships. In high school alone, I think I got like 4 or 5 state championships in multiple sports. Then you go to junior college, then I win a state championship and a national championship. Then we go to D1 and we, SWAC co-champs fighting for that top spot. Then, so my dad was a state champion, so I don't know anything other but winning championships, and I speak in championship language. So I think if you do everything that you're supposed to do the right way, and you preach that constant, consistent message about championships, I think it eventually fall into place when the players start believing in you. If the players believe in you and they believe the message that you're preaching, I think the sky's the limit. Too many times, it's my personal opinion. Some people may like it, some people don't. I mean, it's hard to preach and talk about championships when you don't have any. Like it's like me, like, man, I'm preaching about this Bentley or this Ferrari. I can tell you all about it, but I don't have one. But what I can tell you about is I can tell you about championships because, I have a lot of them, and I can tell you how to get there. I can tell you the blueprint. I can tell you the roadmap. But with all that said and done, you still have to have the players and your coaching staff that's willing to believe in your message and preach your message, or you're doomed to go nowhere.
Most definitely. And leaving University of Antelope Valley, same formula, same success at the University of Laverne, Division III NCAA school. Uh, you led them to their first conference championship in nearly 20 years at that time, and had a
Yeah.
top 25 team, had all conference players. And, if you look at it in hindsight, it was essentially maybe a little bit harder to recruit on a Division III level to get the players that you wanted, but you still made it happen. That's one thing. Everywhere that you've been able to make it happen with what you have and bring the best out of those players and get them, like you said, to buy in. So as we see everything that has transpired with the current team at Bethesda and the players and everything in that capacity, what is, as a father, essentially, of the Bethesda women's basketball program, what is it that you see that you would just like to offer as far as encouragement to them to keep going? Because now they say that they're America's team. So
It's America's team, and I love it, because I was a part of that, Bethesda holds a big part. I was there 3 years. I was the head coach at Bethesda University for 3 years. Um, I seen it go from here to here, and it's kind of steady now. And I just want to say, hey, keep fighting, you know, keep showing up every night, keep competing. I think they got a heck of a guy that's leading them. I think he has an absolute a terrific vision. We all know he knows basketball, so that's not the problem. I just think, Bethesda is a place where you have to roll your sleeves up, get dirty, and you got to go in there and recruit those kids that were overlooked and those kids just looking for opportunity, because it's not going to be easy. But I do think, Bethesda is like the OG of all the independent colleges in Southern California. You look around, it's been 4 or 5 schools that have closed down. Guess what? Bethesda's still standing. So it's a great foundation there. They have unbelievable resources there now. The athletic director there, I spoke with him the other night. We're still good friends, and he said this may be a blessing in disguise. Like phone calls that went up, player inquiries that went up about players wanting to try out and join the program. And I think you gotta you can learn from anything, right? Anything that you go through, you can learn from. And I think this is experience that, they're learning from. And I think it may actually put them on the right track to get back in that national notoriety.
definitely, because both athletically and academically, the school is very strong. As your team, we're all
Yeah.
graduates. Everybody.
All graduates, all graduated, went on to graduate from Bethesda, went on to get their master's degree. Some of them are, doctors, lawyers, school teachers, coaches now. So all those young ladies that I had the privilege to coach in those 3 years I was there, they're very successful people. A couple of them have even joined my coaching staffs as I have been on this coaching journey. So I just think, like the sky's the limit for anyone that's part of it. Proud to have that experience, being the head coach at Bethesda University, being a professor at Bethesda University. It's like not too many jobs that I didn't do inside of the school. And I just think you just gotta, you're there. Be prideful of where you are. Like bad days happen, but you know, tough times only last so long. Tough people last forever.
Well, Coach Pruitt, again, we want to thank you, number one, for your time, and also congratulate you on this career journey that you've had that has been filled with championships in all conferences and pro players and graduates, and has laid an essential blueprint for people to follow to attain success. And in this upcoming season with Indiana State, want to wish you the best, to you and your program, and everything going forward in this new year.
All right. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to connecting with you in the future.